And the water is coming out of this spring at approximately 200 gallons per minute. The white PVC pipe that we passed over there is not a piece of trash. It's not an accident. It's down there because it's an instrument that's used to measure 8 different qualities of the water, including the water sediment load, water velocity, and water temperature. Now they dug this area out. This used to be a shallow area, just like the part over here. And it had a pool in it, and there were a lot of reeds and cattails that were growing here. They built this hotel on a marshy area. This wasn't the original headwaters of the San Marcos River. So over there, where you see those rock outcroppings, between them there's a hole. If you walk over there by there, when you go to the aquarium a little bit later, you'll see that there are ripples coming out of that area because there is a spring underneath the dock over there. So that's the first high pressure spring that we can't access. So, the plants that you're looking at are interesting as well. All of these plants that you see are primarily native species, but we do have over 140 plant species here in the water of aquatic plants, and some of them are invasive. This long plant directly beneath us right now, reaching almost to the glass itself, this dark green and looks like a Christmas tree, that one is called coon's tail, and coon's tail is a form of hornswort. It grows a foot a day. Because it grows so fast, we have a water mower here on the lake. We call it a harvester. We have to take over the lake about 3 times a week in order to keep that coon's tail from overgrowing the surface of the lake. Now there's a short plant down there that you're now seeing with a pointy tip. That one is called arrowhead. When the park went out of business in 1994, and Texas State took over, the bottom of the lake had been overtaken by an invasive species called hydrilla. Hydrilla had crowded out all of these other species that you see here. So in '98, they brought in an army of volunteer divers who removed all of the hydrilla and replanted all of these native species. And now it looks like they've been here forever. Now, directly beneath us, we are coming over a low pressure spring. And the first thing you're going to notice is that low pressure springs do not look like high pressure springs. Anybody see anything interesting down there?
The sand's moving.
The sand's moving, yes. What's that sand doing?
Producing water.
Yeah, it's kind of bubbling up, isn't
Oh,
it?
I see it.
Looks kind of like an underwater volcano effect going there. Something you'd see in Yellowstone, right? Well, there's no tectonic forces associated with this other than the pressurized water of artesian springs. Those are low pressure springs, averaging here about 1 to 3 gallons of water a minute. This one area is called salt and pepper because of the mixture of the limestone sediment, which is the white sand down there, and the black stuff. The black stuff is actually organic material, remnants of plants that have grown down there. And did you see that fish just then dig its head into the sand? It just caught one of those little small blind shrimp-like creatures coming up from the springs themselves. This area was actually almost dormant about a week ago. The entire area was covered with algae, but in the past couple of days it's been replenishing itself and it's come active again. So wherever this spring area originates in the Texas Hill Country, they've recently received rainfall, so the springs have become active once again. Alright, we're about to go over a high pressure spring called Johnny Weissmuller. Does anybody know who that is?
Yes, Tarzan.
Yes, indeed. Johnny Weissmuller is Tarzan. If you have polarized glasses, you can put those on and you can actually see out here. Because you can't see generally just looking because of the reflection. The polarized sunglasses will let you see where everything is under the water here. So this is about 23 feet down right now. And Johnny Weissmuller, who played the role of Tarzan in the 1940s movies, came here in 1978 to do a publicity stunt. He was an Olympic swimmer, set a whole bunch of records, and he currently lives over in Lufkin in East Texas. When he came here, his job was to dive off the end of this boat and to take a drink from the head of the spring down here. That's 23 feet down, folks. Can anybody here dive down that deep? I guess that's why they got an Olympic swimmer, huh? So, he was a little older back then, but he still had all of his skills. And when he dove off this boat, and I do think it was this boat, because it's the oldest and the best boat, they would have used this one just for promotional purposes. His stroke must have been a wonder to behold. His dive must have been a perfect 10. The story goes, when he got down there to the head of the spring, and if you look very closely, you can see those plants kind of blowing about really powerfully down there, and the sand is even moving as well. He opened his mouth to take a drink, and when he did so, an explosion of bubbles burst from his mouth, and he started rolling over and thrashing and flailing about. Well, he had had the breath knocked from him, so he had to rush back up 20 feet to the surface. After he clambered back aboard the boat and had caught his breath, the people peppered him with questions, asking him what had happened. He explained to them that he had had the breath knocked out of him, and the water was coming out of that spring right there with the force of a fire hydrant. But Mrs. Weissmuller stated that the water tasted great. Now look at the behavior of the fish that are down there in the alluvial fan itself. They're pretty much sitting there with their heads directly into the flow of the water. If they turn to the side just a bit,